Welcome, my family. Before we jump in, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends and family. I'd also love to know, where are you watching from and what time is it there? Please hype me on YouTube. Thanks. I was 24 when I realized something had followed us out of the mountains. Something patient, something that didn't forget the sound of my voice. I didn't know it then, not when the four of us were drunk on freedom and altitude in northern Vietnam, laughing too loudly, posing for photos like we were untouchable. But looking back, I can see the first signs, faint as breath on cold glass. The way the wind along the upper Ha Jiang Loop seemed to hush when we passed. The way the clouds moved too fast. The smell. God, that smell. Like wet fur left to rot in snow. I remember brushing it off, telling myself mountain air just carried strange things. I lied to myself a lot back then. We'd saved for months, cheap hostels, communal bathrooms, street food dinners. But it felt worth it. Mia had landed a job offer in Seattle. Naomi was moving in with her girlfriend, and Aaron was trying to forget the guy who'd ghosted her. I was just trying to breathe. Trying to freeze my life in the brief moment before everything changed. That loop through the mountains was supposed to be our victory lap. But even on the first morning, something felt wrong. Maybe it was the way the wind kept pushing at my jacket as if testing its strength. Maybe it was how Aaron pointed out the cliffs and joked, "Great place to disappear, huh?" before wincing at her own words. Or maybe it was the sound, low, dragging, almost like someone whispering through stone, that came and went with no rhythm we could trace. I tried to laugh it off. I told the girls the altitude was making me dramatic. But inside, a small, icy knot had already started forming. I didn't know what shape it would take yet, only that it hadn't come for all of us. Not really. It had come for me. The passes grew quieter the higher we climbed. Tourists vanished. Locals nodded politely but kept walking. Snow appeared in odd, clumped patches, even though it wasn't the season for it. And that smell, that strange sour odor, like a mix of musk and old blood soaked into fur. It drifted through the wind in thin threads that coiled around my throat. "Seriously, what is that?" Erin muttered, wrinkling her nose. "Maybe an animal," I said. Mia snorted. "Yeah, like a giant wet goat." Naomi didn't laugh. "Doesn't smell like a goat." "What does it smell like then?" Naomi paused, squinting into the distance. "Something hungry." We all laughed that time because that was easier. But I noticed the way Naomi's shoulders tensed, the way her breathing grew shallow. I wasn't the only one feeling watched. The sound came again that afternoon, deep, rumbling, almost human. It echoed so strangely through the cliffs that none of us could tell where it came from. "What the hell was that?" Mia whispered. The hair lifted on my arms. "Wind?" "That wasn't wind," Naomi said, already backing away from the tree line. Mia walked toward it instead. "Guys, relax. It's probably..." She didn't finish. A blur tore out of the fog, white, massive, hunched forward like it was too big for its own bones. It moved too fast, like the fog had given birth to it, like it had always been standing right there waiting for her to smile at the world. Mia screamed, a sound sliced short as it grabbed her. The creature's arm, if it was an arm, hooked around her waist. She slammed into the snow and was dragged into the shadows under the trees, so swiftly her shoe was still rocking where she'd been standing. "Maya!" Aaron shrieked. But by the time we ran toward the trees, our boots sliding over frozen ground, there was nothing. Just deep claw-like grooves in the snow and the rustle of branches still settling from the force of whatever had moved through them. I didn't breathe for what felt like a full minute. None of us did. "We have to go after her," Aaron whispered. "No," Naomi said. "We have to leave. Now." "That thing has her. That thing," Naomi said quietly, "is not something we can follow." We were shaking too hard to argue. We ran. We didn't even try to track Mia's path. Something in our brains, something primal, told us not to enter that forest, told us the trees weren't hiding Mia. They were hiding something else. We ran until the mountains shifted around us, every path looking the same. Panic sliced us into silence. We didn't talk about Mia. We barely said each other's names. The cold thickened into something heavier, pressing into our bones. When night fell, none of us slept. I kept hearing faint cracks in the distance, like footfalls, like something big circling. Naomi was next. It happened the following morning. The forest ended on a stretch of snow-covered hillside, and she stepped forward just slightly ahead of us, only a foot or two, but enough. The ground beneath her gave way with a sharp metallic crack, like ice cracking over a lake. She dropped so fast I didn't process what I'd seen. 1 second Naomi was there. The next she was too far below for me to reach. "Naomi!" I screamed, falling to my stomach, clawing toward the opening. It wasn't natural. Not a cave shaped by water or wind. The entrance was square, engineered, straight-edged stone sloping downward into a man-made tunnel packed with frost. And below, echoing up through the darkness, was Naomi's voice. "I'm okay," she called weakly. I landed on something, but I can't see. Wait, did you hear that?" Something moved inside. Heavy. Slow. Scraping. I froze. Naomi's voice came again, thinner this time. "Don't come down here." "What? Naomi?" "It's still here." Something exhaled, a low, vibrating breath that rolled up the walls of the tunnel. I scrambled back so fast, snow exploded behind me. Erin grabbed my arm, sobbing, "We can't leave her." But Naomi's whisper rose again. "Run." So we did. We half fell down the mountainside, slipping, bruising, scraping skin off our palms. When we finally reached a village, a cluster of steep-roofed houses with smoke curling into the pale morning sky, my lungs felt shredded. Locals formed search parties. They went into the forest, into the cave. They didn't find Naomi, but they found 4 sets of footprints inside that tunnel. 1 human, 3 massive, and only 1 human set came back out. Weeks have passed since then, and I still hear Naomi's last whisper in my dreams. Sometimes I think I hear it when I'm awake, thin, shaking, as if carried on the draft that slips beneath my window frame. But it's the scratching that keeps me up. Slow, deliberate. A pull, a drag, another pull, like nails too thick to be human, like it followed our tracks, like it remembers the sound of my breath. Part 2, 1,000 words. The psychologists keep telling me it's trauma, that the brain recreates danger long after the danger is gone. The problem is, the noises didn't start until I came home, and they don't sound like anything the human brain would invent. They're too heavy, too patient, too aware. The first time it happened, it was 3 a.m. A whisper-soft scrape across the glass behind my headboard. I froze. My breath hovered in my chest like it was afraid to disturb the air. Then came a second scrape. This one lower, slower, as if whatever it was wanted me to know it was there. I lay there, listening to the blood throb in my ears, telling myself it was a tree branch. Except my apartment is on the 3rd floor. No trees, no balconies, nothing but open air between my window and the ground. The next morning I checked the outside of the building. My hands were still shaking. I expected to find nothing, expected to confirm I'd imagined it. But the brick beneath my window was dusted with snow, and in the snow were 3 faint lines, parallel, deep, like something had dragged its fingers down the wall. I didn't tell Erin. I didn't have the words for it. Scratch marks don't prove anything except that I'm not getting better. So I told myself the same thing the psychologist told me. trauma lies, fear lies, memory lies. Only if that was true, why did the smell come back? It happened 2 nights later. I'd left the window cracked open because the apartment was too warm, and as I stepped out of the shower, I froze mid-motion. That smell, the sour, wet fur smell from the mountains. It drifted across my living room, thin but unmistakable. My towel slipped from my hands. I shut and locked every window, checked the hallway, then the closet, then under the bed. I didn't sleep at all, and the next day I bought the thickest curtains I could find, the kind that shut out light like a wall. I taped the cracks in the windows, as if tape could stop something with arms long enough to reach into a tunnel and drag out a full-grown woman. Every night since, the scratching has changed locations. Sometimes the window, sometimes the wall, sometimes, God help me, the ceiling. As if it's moving around the building, as if it's testing. Last night, it tried the front door. The sound woke me instantly. A low thud. Not like a knock, more like a palm, if you could call it a palm, pressing gently against the wood. Then a scrape, a pull. The handle rattled once, softly, as though the thing outside already knew I was awake. I held my breath and whispered, "Naomi." A pause. Then something exhaled. Hot, slow, wet, not human. I didn't open the door. I sat on the floor with my back pressed to it until dawn. Aaron tried calling again this morning. I didn't answer. What would I say? That Mia was taken by something enormous and pale? That Naomi died in a man-made cave beneath the snow? That something with 3 massive sets of footprints followed me across continents and now scratches at my door like it knows my heartbeat? She'd try to save me. Aaron has always been the one who pushes through fear with anger. But anger won't help here. Nothing will. I've stopped turning on lights after dark. Light feels like an invitation now, like it would tell the thing outside exactly where to look. I walk around my apartment with my back against the walls, listening, waiting. The scratching came again an hour ago, just once. A single, deliberate stroke across the window. But tonight, something new happened. It spoke. Not words. Not anything shaped by a mouth. It was more like a low, vibrating hum, rising and falling rhythmically. At first I thought it was the building, or the heater, something mechanical. Then I realized it was mimicking. The pattern, the intonation. It was humming the same sound Naomi made when we were kids and she tried to soothe me after nightmares. A shaky, tuneless hum. Something cold twisted in my stomach. It hummed again, slower this time, like it wanted me to recognize it. I don't know how long I stood there with my hand trembling inches from the glass. A lifetime. Or maybe a moment. And then, just at the edge of the curtain, something pressed against the fogged window. The outline of a massive hand. Fingers too long, too many joints. Each tipped with something that curved gently, like claws softened by distance. It didn't scratch this time. It tapped. Soft. Patient. A greeting. Or a reminder. I backed away slowly, my breath catching on raw edges in my throat. The tapping followed me, light as fingertips trailing down a piano. Then silence. I'm writing this now because the sun is rising, and daylight feels like the only barrier left. But I know what's coming. I know it's learned my routines, my footsteps, my breathing. And I know it wants me to open the window. Maybe it doesn't kill right away. Maybe it watches, memorizes, waits for you to look straight into the fog and ask, "Mia? Naomi?" Because tonight, when the scratching started again, something whispered through the gap in the curtain, raspy, low, familiar in the worst way. "Don't run." The same words Naomi said before she disappeared, the same cadence, the same terror. And now I understand. It's not just following my tracks, it's learning my voice next. I was 25 when Olivia and I took that girls' trip through Indiana. And even now, years later, I can still feel the moment the night began bending around us, like something out there had already chosen us before we ever touched the highway. We were leaving Bloomington late, later than we should have, both of us too stubborn to admit we were avoiding the hard conversation we'd been circling for weeks. Tension lived between us lately, humming like something electrical. Maybe that's why we drove past midnight instead of stopping for the night. Maybe neither of us wanted to sleep, knowing we'd wake up in the same fight. The sky was moonless, that kind of deep country black where the horizon disappears and the world feels unfinished. Highway 46 stretched ahead like a narrow ribbon, fields on both sides so flat they looked like they'd been ironed. I remember rolling down the window just a crack, the smell of damp earth, diesel, and cut weeds hitting my face, when headlights bloomed behind us. At first, I didn't think anything of it. People drove fast out there. Farmers, truckers, night owls who lived their whole lives on these stretches. But these headlights were wrong somehow. They stayed too close, too steady, too intentional. Olivia noticed it first. "He's riding us," she muttered, fingers tightening on the wheel. "Probably wants to pass," I said, though the words felt flimsy. But he didn't pass. He stayed glued to our bumper for miles, tailing us through every curve like he'd already memorized the exact rhythm of the road. The longer he followed, the more I felt something coiling inside me. Something cold, something faintly metallic, like fear turning into instinct. "Slow down a little," I whispered. "See if he backs off." She did. He didn't. He matched us exactly, the headlights warping in the rear view, reaching into the car like hands. When the first sign of unease flickered across Olivia's face, I felt my stomach hollow out. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't easily spooked. If she was scared, then something was genuinely off. We drove in silence for another mile, and the road narrowed the way rural Indiana roads often do, shoulders vanishing, ditches deepening, no streetlights, no houses, nothing but the soft rustling whisper of cornfields brushing against each other. And that's when I saw them. The tires. 5 or 6 of them, but not scattered, not random. They were arranged across the asphalt in a strange, precise row, stretching from one side of the road to the other like someone was marking a boundary. Too neat to be an accident. "Liv, I see them." There wasn't time to brake. Not enough space. Not enough distance. The impact erupted like a gunshot. Rubber thumped violently beneath us, then the car jerked sideways. I slammed my hand against the dashboard to steady myself as metal scraped asphalt in a high, agonizing shriek. The airbags didn't deploy, but the seatbelts bit hard into our shoulders. Behind us, the truck slowed. Its engine didn't rev. It rumbled, like it was savoring something. "Keep going," I said, breath catching. "Don't stop, Liv. Don't stop." She didn't argue. She punched the gas. The rims screamed against the destroyed tires, shaking the entire chassis. The steering wheel trembled like something alive in her hands. Then I saw movement. At first, just shadows. Then figures, 3 or 4, emerging from the brush, hunched, watching, tools glinting faintly under the thin starlight. A crowbar. Something long like a tire iron. Another holding what looked like a hook. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Go!" I yelled. "Just go!" The car lurched forward. The truck behind us roared as if awakened, like it couldn't believe prey was trying to slip the trap it had set. Olivia fought the wheel, breath ragged, eyes wide as the car fishtailed through the broken tires, jolting and grinding. We tore past the figures, mere feet from them. Close enough that I saw one lift his arm, reaching as if he expected to grab us through the air. "Why would—" "Don't think. Just drive." The car vibrated so violently that my teeth hurt. The rims sparked against the road, bright orange flickers popping beneath us. The truck gained speed again, closer, closer. The headlights swallowed the rear window, and then, somehow, we made it to the intersection where 46 met a slightly wider road. Olivia took the turn too hard, the car fishtailing again, but the truck overshot us, its momentum carrying it forward another 100 yards before it managed to slow down and swing around. That's when Liv got a sliver of control back. She hit the gas, and the car limped forward with a horrible grinding sound. We didn't talk. We couldn't. Our lungs worked only for survival. For 20 minutes he followed, closing distance, losing it, closing again, until finally, he vanished. Just fell back into the night like he'd been swallowed by the dark. We reached a gas station in Terre Haute with our hands shaking so badly it took us 3 tries to open the doors. The attendant, a man in his 60s with a baseball cap and swelling around his nose, walked around the car with a slow, careful expression. When he saw the nails embedded deep in the shredded rubber, his face changed. "Those weren't from the road," he said quietly. "Those were placed. Folks out this way don't like strangers cutting through their land." Olivia and I exchanged a look that felt like falling. "What do you mean placed?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just turned toward the dark road we'd come from, staring like he expected something to rise out of it. We stayed in the bathroom for a long time, splashing water on our faces, trying to steady ourselves, trying not to admit that the figures we saw, the truck, the perfect line of tires, they were all pieces of something larger, intentional. When we got back on the road after sunrise, Liv kept staring into the rearview mirror. Not glancing, staring. After an hour, she whispered, "I think they knew we'd come down that road. I think they were waiting." I didn't answer. Because deep down, in a place I didn't want to admit existed, I agreed. And the longer we drove, the more I felt like the road ahead of us wasn't ours at all, that someone else had already decided where we were going to end up. I didn't tell her that the night before our trip, I'd had a dream. One of those dreams that stays sticky on your skin. In it, Olivia and I were driving through a tunnel, asphalt stretching forever, and every exit was blocked by piles of tires. Always stacked with careful hands. I hadn't thought about the dream until then, until the real highway looked like a copy of it. We stopped for breakfast in a small diner outside Indianapolis, the kind of place with checkered floors and laminated menus and a waitress whose face said she'd been awake too early for too many years. But even there, among clinking plates and coffee steam, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The front windows reflected the dining room, but when headlights passed outside, the reflection warped, elongated, bending in a way that made my breath hitch. It was nothing. It had to be nothing. But when the door jangled open, I flinched so hard the fork slipped from my hand. "It's okay," Olivia murmured, though she didn't sound like she believed it. "They're not here." I wasn't so sure. The fear wasn't loud anymore. It was quieter now, creeping into thoughts, stitching itself into every silence. Every time a truck passed the diner, my pulse jumped. Every time a stranger looked at us too long, my palms dampened. We left around 9. The sun should have made things better, but daylight only made me notice more. How isolated the highway was, how many blind curves there were, how many places someone could wait unseen. "I keep thinking about those people," Olivia said finally. "The way they moved. Like they were ready," I whispered. She nodded, knuckles whitening again around the wheel. Hours passed, signs blurred, towns came and went. But the tension didn't ease. It thickened. By the time we crossed into Illinois, my throat felt raw from swallowing panic. Then, somewhere near Effingham, Olivia went very still. "What?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. She just reached up and tilted the rearview mirror toward me. Headlights, far back, too far to identify, but bright, steady, unwavering. My stomach dropped. "It's not him," I said automatically. "How do you know?" I didn't. The car behind us stayed at the same distance for nearly 10 minutes, not speeding, not slowing, just hovering in that perfect pocket of space where I couldn't tell if he was gaining or waiting. "Liv, change lanes." She did. The car followed. "Maybe he's just going the same way." She gave a shaky exhale. "Yeah, maybe." But neither of us believed that. At the next exit, Olivia flicked the blinker and turned off the highway. A test. A trap for the trap. The car followed. My heart crawled into my throat. "Take the next right," I whispered. She did. It followed. Next left. It followed. We went in a full block-like loop through a cluster of industrial warehouses, empty lots, chain-link fences, loading docks sleeping in the noon sun. There was nowhere to hide. "Okay," Olivia whispered, panic rising like steam from her skin. Okay, let's get back to the main road." She pressed the gas. The car behind us did too. That's when I saw it. The front grille, the shape of the headlights, the familiar dent in the bumper. It was the truck. The same damn truck. "Liv, I see him." He didn't honk, didn't flash his lights, didn't speed ahead. He just followed. Unbroken, patient, focused, as if he'd been waiting for us to mess up again, as if the night before had only been the opening act. "Get back on the highway," I said, voice trembling. "Crowds, traffic, people." She reached the ramp and we merged onto I-70. Cars surrounded us now, families, commuters, semis, yet the truck held its place 2 lanes behind, slipping through traffic like water around stones. "He's not trying to run us off the road," I whispered. "No," Olivia said. "He's shepherding us." The word lodged in my chest. We drove for another full hour before I noticed something else. Something worse. Every time we switched lanes, a different car slid into the space behind us. But when I looked closely, I noticed tiny things that made my skin prickle. A glint of something metallic on the dashboard. A driver whose face stayed unnaturally still. A license plate with numbers in the same sequence as the trucks. Not the same vehicles, just the same pattern. I didn't tell Olivia. She was already shaking. The fear was changing shape now, not attack, but orchestration. Planning. Watching. Hurting us not away from something, but towards something. When the sun began to set, we pulled into a rest stop outside Casey. It was crowded, busy, safe-looking. But when we got out of the car, I froze. In the grass, right at the edge of the lot, lay a single tire. Not old, not discarded. Placed. Olivia saw it too. She grabbed my wrist so hard it hurt. "Let's go, now." We got back in the car, and that's when we saw him. Leaning against the truck, arms crossed, staring straight at us. His face was shadowed by the setting sun, but I could feel the stare, like cold hands on the back of my neck. He didn't move toward us. He didn't need to. He knew we'd leave. He knew we'd run. He knew exactly which road we'd take. We drove until full dark again. Neither of us spoke. At some point, I realized something unsettling and unbearably clear. He wasn't chasing us. He was mapping us, tracking how we reacted, what exits we took, what turns we feared, learning us. And now, whenever I drive at night and the road curves away into darkness, I feel it again. This sense that my steering wheel isn't entirely mine, that someone unseen already chose the path before I ever touched it. Every night drive feels like a choice someone else mapped long ago. I should have known something was wrong the moment the man tapped on my window, but it was the way Brooke's eyes snapped open, sharp, warning, that truly froze the air. Up until that second, our girls' trip had been stupidly normal. Cheap gas station coffee, a playlist we kept restarting, the kind of late summer heat that makes your skin stick to the seat. Missouri stretched in lazy waves outside the windshield. All farmland and wide sky, the afternoon sun turning the dashboard a soft, sleepy gold. Brooke had fallen asleep with her cheek against the window, breathing slow, the kind of nap only pure exhaustion can pull out of someone. I remember thinking I should let her sleep longer. I remember thinking I'd just scroll for a while, decompress, pretend the real world wasn't waiting for us when we got back. But then he appeared. Just a shadow at first, then a shape, then a face too close to the glass. His knuckles tapped once. Light, polite, ordinary. But something in me recoiled, like I'd touched a live wire. He smiled when I looked up. Too eager, too practiced. Not the awkward smile someone gives when they're stranded. This one was ready, like he'd been rehearsing it. "Hey there," he said through the glass, voice muffled. "My car won't start. Think you could give me a quick jump? Won't take 5 minutes." 5 minutes. The way he said it, too precise, scratched at me. I cracked the window an inch. Where's your car?" "Right around the corner," he said, pointing toward a weird little gap between a beat-up RV and an old pickup truck. The space was so narrow it barely looked like a parking spot, more like a slit between two walls. "Just right there," he added. Super quick. Before I could answer, Brooke stirred beside me. That alone startled me. She sleeps like the dead. But she didn't wake slowly or lazily. Her eyes snapped open like someone had dropped ice water on her. She looked at me, then at him, and her whole expression turned razor sharp. "Don't," her eyes said before her mouth formed the word. I tried to play it calm. My friend's sleeping. We're kind of in a hurry." His smile didn't move, but something behind it shifted, like a curtain dropping an inch. "Won't take 5 minutes," he repeated, exactly the same rhythm as before, like a line of dialogue stuck in looping playback. Then I noticed the woman. She was standing by the RV's side door, waving stiffly. Not a friendly wave, something copied, performed. Her arm moved too slow, too mechanical. Her eyes were wide, unblinking. She looked like someone being coached off camera. A pressure formed under my ribs. Nothing was wrong. Not technically. People break down. People ask for help. But the air inside the car tightened around me, and every instinct I'd ignored for years, every late-night walk where I told myself I was overreacting, lit up like a fuse. Brooke leaned closer, whispering so low I barely heard it. "If you turn the wheel, I'm grabbing the keys." The man didn't hear her, but I swear his smile cracked for a half second, a hairline fracture exposing something brittle. His voice rose, a twinge of impatience bleeding through. "Seriously, it's just right there. You'd be helping us out." Us, not him. Us. The woman lowered her arm mid-wave. Her face collapsed from pretend friendliness into pure frustration. No mask this time. She took a step forward, slow and deliberate, like she'd been waiting for her cue. I gripped the wheel. I'm sorry," I said, forcing a smile I didn't feel. "We gotta go." The man stepped closer. Not a desperate step, a controlling one. "It'll take 5. Brooke's hand clamped onto my forearm, her voice suddenly sharp. "Drive." Ever notice how fear makes everything feel sharp and slow at the same time? The second I shifted into reverse, the man's whole posture changed. His smile dropped off his face like a dead leaf. His jaw flexed. The woman lunged away from the RV door, moving faster than I expected, like she'd been bracing her legs for it. I hit the gas. The car jerked backward. Tires squealed. The man reached toward us, shouting something I couldn't hear. The woman's fingers stretched out like claws for a split second before she stumbled back from the blast of dust our tires kicked up. The truck stop blurred. The empty spaces, the pump stations, the faded red signs swaying in the heat. Then we tore onto the highway, my hands shaking on the wheel. Brooke's breath ragged beside me. We didn't speak for a full minute. Finally, Brooke said, "He was lying. I know. That spot wasn't for a jump. I know. They weren't stuck. I know." But the truth settled deeper, colder, beyond words. They were waiting. For who? For us? For anyone foolish enough to roll into that choke point? Something twisted in my stomach. Dread, guilt, a terrifying realization that if Brooke hadn't woken up at exactly the right second, I might have followed him. I might have driven into that slit between the RV and the pickup. I might have left the world through a space no wider than a doorway. Brooke rubbed her eyes. "Your window is down. I don't like that." I swallowed hard. I know. But what I didn't say, what sank into me like a hook, was this. Brooke wasn't supposed to wake up. She never wakes up like that. She never wakes up right on time. When my phone buzzed an hour later, vibrating across the console, I almost screamed. A news alert lit up the screen. 2 missing women. Last seen near a truck stop. Last seen near an RV. My mouth went dry. "Brooke." She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. "Keep driving," she whispered. The sun dipped low behind us. The sky turned bruised purple. And for the first time on our trip, I realized we were prey that had slipped the snare, but only barely. Only by chance. Only by a nap. Only by the thin, stupid luck of timing. I didn't feel safe. I felt hunted. And the highway no longer felt empty. It felt watched. I kept checking the rearview mirror. At first casually, then compulsively, like something inside me couldn't accept that we'd gotten away clean. Every pair of headlights behind us made my chest tighten. Every vehicle that stayed in our lane too long made my fingers twitch against the wheel. Brooke pretended to scroll her phone, but she wasn't reading anything. Her eyes kept flicking to the side mirrors. She'd always been calm, the somehow unshakable one between us. But now her knee bounced non-stop. She finally muttered, "Don't let anyone tail us, even if it's normal traffic. Just don't." The worst part? I didn't think she was overreacting. Because something in that man's voice, in that woman's stiff wave, in that too perfect request, it all felt coordinated, not random, predatory. And the realization hit me hard. We weren't special. We weren't targeted because of who we were. We were targeted because we stopped. The highway stretched ahead in a long, shimmering strip, the late evening heat rising in ghostly waves off the asphalt. Trees blurred past like dark smears, but the silence between us didn't soften. It thickened. "You really think they were involved in that?" I asked finally. Brooke didn't look away from the window. "Missing women? Near a truck stop? Near an RV?" She exhaled, long and shaky. "Yeah, I think they were involved." A cold ripple went through me. And if we'd gone with them, don't finish that sentence. But my mind finished it anyway. I imagined the narrow gap between the vehicles, the shadowed space that wasn't meant for a jump. I imagined hands closing around my arms, dragging me deeper into some place between metal and darkness, where no one passing by would ever look. And the image kept changing, sharpening, until it wasn't imagination anymore, but a memory that didn't exist. A flash of a windowless interior, a rope, a hand clamping over my mouth. I shook my head, gripping the wheel so tightly my palms hurt. "We're okay," Brooke said softly. "Are we?" My voice cracked. Because I swear that woman looked at us like we ruined something. Brooke nodded slowly. We did. Night slid across the sky, dissolving the last of the pink. Streetlights grew sparse, civilization thinned. The hum of our tires felt louder, more rhythmic, almost pulse-like. The wind pressed against the car in uneven thuds, like something knocking. At a rest area 20 miles later, Brooke said, "Pull over." "Are you serious?" "We need to check the car." My heart lurched. Brooke, what if they marked us? The words froze me. Marked us. People don't think like that. Not normal people. But after what we saw, I wasn't sure we got to be normal anymore. I pulled into a space beneath a flickering light. The bulb buzzed overhead like an angry insect. The shadows around the lot were too deep, the corners too dark. I didn't want to open the door. I didn't want my feet on that pavement. But Brooke was already out, circling the car with her phone flashlight. "Brooke," I whispered, stepping out. "Let's just go." She crouched, scanning the bumper. They could have done it fast. A sticker, a magnet, something for someone else to follow us. "You're scaring me." She didn't respond. When her light hit the rear fender, she stopped breathing. "Brooke?" She leaned in. I followed her gaze. A small strip of tape. Black. Thin. Precisely placed. Not big enough for anyone to notice casually. Not obvious, but deliberate. I felt the world tilt. Was that there before? No. Her voice wasn't even a whisper. It was air. They marked us. The shadows around the rest area suddenly felt like they were leaning in, listening. I tore the tape off with shaking fingers and threw it into a trash bin. Brooke didn't wait. She sprinted back to the passenger side, yanking the door open. "Go. Now." I ran back to the driver's seat, slamming the door so hard the window rattled. When I hit the gas, gravel spit behind us. The rest area vanished into darkness as if swallowed whole. I drove without speaking. Speeding, switching lanes, checking mirrors so often my eyes burned. But the fear wasn't behind us anymore. It was everywhere, in the air, in the night, in the dark stretch of highway that felt suddenly endless. Brooke finally said, "We're not sleeping tonight." "No," I whispered. "We're not." "You think they're still coming?" I didn't answer, because the truth was crawling up the back of my throat. You don't set a trap like that for one attempt. Not unless you have more people. Not unless you have a system. Not unless you expect your prey to run. When we finally saw the lights of a town on the horizon, it felt like a mirage. Warm, glowing, impossible. We pulled into the first motel we saw. A cracked sign, a dim lobby, a clerk who didn't care who we were. Inside the room, I locked every bolt, then pushed a chair under the handle, then moved the dresser in front of the door. Brooke didn't question any of it. We sat on the floor with our backs against the bed frame, listening to the hum of the cheap AC. My hands were still shaking. Brooke leaned her head back against the mattress. "You know what scares me the most?" she whispered. "What?" "That they didn't chase us." The room went silent. "Maybe they didn't need to," she added. I swallowed. "What do you mean?" Brooke's eyes didn't move from the door. "Because they already know what kind of girls stop when someone taps on their window." Something cold crawled through my ribs. Hours later, when Brooke finally drifted to sleep, I stayed awake, eyes wide, staring at the poorly painted door, listening for footsteps on the motel walkway. Every creak made my heart stutter. Every car engine in the distance made my breath catch. And sometime near dawn, when I blinked toward the window, I saw an RV roll slowly past the motel lot. Old, beige, beat up, just like the one at the truck stop. It didn't stop. It didn't linger. It just passed. But the woman inside, I swear she turned her head toward our room and she smiled. I was 26, driving home alone after a girls' weekend in Eureka Springs, when the engine sputtered once like a shutter down a dying animal's spine, and the whole car went silent in a way that felt intentional. I remember the exact note of it, the way the sound cut off mid-breath, leaving only the dense black mass of the Arkansas woods pressing on either side of the highway. I didn't even realize I'd stopped breathing until the quiet grew so thick. It felt predatory, like the world was holding itself still to see what I'd do next. I pulled the wheel to the shoulder beside a deserted rest area, if you could even call it that. It looked abandoned, 2 cracked picnic tables, a trash can with no lid, a single light pole that didn't work. My headlights caught the reflective sign that said, "Scenic View," but the woods were so deep and dark they swallowed everything past the first line of trees. Inside the car, the air shifted, not cold, not warm, just still, too still. My own heartbeat seemed too loud, punching my ribs in a quick, unsteady rhythm. I told myself I'd call for help after I calmed down, but the truth was, a knot in my throat made it hard to think, hard to breathe. I leaned forward, hands on the wheel, breathing into my palms. "It's fine," I whispered. "You just need to call AAA." But something in the dark didn't feel fine. It started as a shape, not a person, not an animal, just a darker slice of darkness peeling itself from the tree line. At first I thought it was my reflection on the window warping from tears. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but when I opened them again, the shape was closer, and standing upright, a silhouette, a man's frame, long-limbed and strangely still, like he'd been poured from shadow instead of stepping out of it. I couldn't see his face, just the impression of a head tilted slightly, like he was studying me. My stomach dropped so hard it hurt. I tried to lock the doors, but my hands shook so badly I missed the button twice. The third hit finally clicked the locks in place, but by then, he was only feet away, drifting more than walking, moving with a slow, deliberate glide that made the hair on my arms rise. "Please go," I whispered, though the window was up and he couldn't hear me. Or maybe he could. Maybe that was the point. He reached my window. My breath froze. The first knock was soft, gentle, testing, tap, not threatening, more like he was seeing how thick the glass was. The second knock rattled the frame so hard it echoed through my bones. A sharp, explosive thud that made me jump back in my seat, my knee hitting the steering wheel. The third knock shook the entire door, the metal groaning as if it might peel open like wet cardboard. I couldn't move, couldn't even scream. The only sound inside the car was my own short, frantic breathing and the faint tick of cooling metal. Then he leaned in. A low whisper scraped across the glass, so close I could have sworn I felt his breath. "Open up," he said. Not loud, not desperate, just steady, familiar. Like we were in the middle of a conversation he believed we'd already started. "I saw you break down." Every word slid under my skin and hooked there. I slapped the ignition button even though it had already failed once. Nothing. I hit it again. Nothing. Again. Again. My hands were wet with sweat, sliding across the smooth plastic, the dashboard beeping in confusion. He knocked again, longer this time, dragging his knuckles as if testing the weakness. Then, like the universe decided to give me one last chance, the engine roared alive. I don't remember putting the car in drive. Don't remember checking mirrors. I only remember flooring the gas so hard the tires screamed and gravel shot against my windows in a spray of gray dust. In the rear view, I caught one last glimpse of him. Still standing. Still watching. Not moving at all. I didn't stop driving. Not through the twisting mountain roads. Not through the small towns with shuttered windows. Not until I reached my friend Amelia's house 3 hours later. I parked crooked in her driveway, stumbled out, and banged on her door with shaking fists. She opened it in pajamas. Hair messy, eyes widening the second she saw my face. "Jesus. You okay? What happened?" I tried to speak, but only sobs came out, ugly, uncontrollable. Amelia pulled me inside, rubbing my back, telling me to breathe. It took a full 10 minutes before the words came in pieces. "Car. Broke down. Man at the window. He." "Stop," she said softly, hands warm on my shoulders. "You're safe now." She stepped out onto her porch to grab my overnight bag from the car, but then her body froze, posture tightening like a pulled wire. "What?" I whispered, stepping out behind her. She didn't turn to me, just lifted a trembling finger toward the edge of her yard, where the trees from the forest behind her property pressed together like a wall. A man stood there, unmoving, dark silhouette, same frame, same posture, same head tilt. He smiled slow, stretching wider as if recognizing me. I collapsed backward into Amelia, a sound escaping my throat I didn't recognize as mine. She dragged me inside, slammed the door, locked every bolt. The police came, searched the surrounding woods. They found nothing. No footprints, no broken branches, no signs anyone had been there at all. Maybe you imagined the second sighting, one officer said gently. You've had a rough night. But his eyes didn't say that. His eyes said he didn't believe a word. That night, sleeping on Amelia's couch, I couldn't close my eyes without hearing that knocking again, soft at first, then violent, then relentless, echoing through my dreams like a promise. Every knock felt like him calling out through the dark. You think you outran me? But I didn't follow your car. I followed you. He'd said he saw me break down. What else had he seen? When? Had he started watching? Amelia tried to make me stay for the week, but work wouldn't let me. And a humiliating part of me wanted the comfort of my own bed, my own apartment, my own shower-like routine would force reality back into shape. The drive home the next morning was tense, hyper-focused. Every shadow on the road felt like it leaned too close. Every mailbox looked like it had shoulders. Every car behind me felt like it stayed behind me too long. By the time I reached my apartment building, my nerves were a raw, vibrating thread. Inside, the air smelled familiar coffee grounds, laundry detergent, the old pine scent of the floor cleaner my landlord used. But something felt off in that subtle, instinctive way. Animals sense earthquakes before humans do. The light seemed a little too dim. The room seemed a little too cold. And my body, it felt watched. I checked every room, every closet, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. I wasn't stupid, I knew what fear does to the brain. But I also knew the difference between irrational panic and the feeling of being observed. This wasn't panic. This was presence. That night the knocking began faintly in my dreams. Soft little taps like a polite gentleman, asking for entry. I bolted awake, with my heart slamming in my throat. The room was silent. Digital clock glowing 3:14 The window was closed. The door was locked. Get it together, I whispered, pressing my palms to my eyes. But then the knock came again. Not loud, not violent. A single, deliberate tap on the front door. I froze. Every nerve firing, my mouth gone dry. Another tap. I crept down the hallway barefoot, feeling the cool laminate under my feet, feeling each breath scrape in my chest. I didn't go close, just far enough to see the bottom edge of the door. A shadow moved beneath it. Slow, unmistakable. I stepped back, another step, another. The shadow didn't shift or leave, it just adjusted, like he was repositioning himself to listen. My voice broke. Go away. Silence. Then, you forgot to open up. His voice, whisper soft, too close. I stumbled backward, tripping over the rug, my hand slapping the floor. The next morning the police came again. Again, they found nothing. No footprints in the hall, no fingerprints on the door, no signs of forced entry. One officer tilted his head sympathetically. You've been through trauma. Sometimes the mind repeats the fear. But I knew what I heard. And I knew what I saw through the peephole when they left. The hallway empty. Lights buzzing. But a faint dark smear on the wall opposite my door, like someone pressed their shoulder against it while waiting. After the third night of knocking, I ran out of places to hide my fear. It spilled everywhere, into work, into conversations, into every attempt at sleep. I stopped driving. I stopped going anywhere alone. And still, the knocking kept threading itself through my dreams, growing louder, more insistent, sometimes sounding like it came from inside the walls. One night I woke to find my phone on the floor, screen lit, flashlight on. I hadn't touched it. Another night, the picture frames on my shelf were turned backward, like someone didn't want me to see my own memories. Worst was the morning I found my bathroom mirror fogged from the inside. I didn't shower. I didn't breathe. I only stared at the message, smeared into the condensation. I'm still here. That was the day I stopped pretending any part of this was in my head. I packed a bag and drove straight back to Amelia's house, refusing to look in the rearview mirror, even once. Amelia hugged me tight. It's okay. Stay as long as you need. But that night, as I lay awake on her couch again, I heard it. Not from the door. Not from the window. From the woods behind her house. Ka. A pause. Ka. Like someone tapping on a tree trunk. My stomach flipped. I sat up slowly. Ka. Closer now, like he'd stepped out from behind one tree and was approaching another. Amelia, I whispered, shaking her awake. She blinked at me, confused. What? What? Then we both heard it, a low creaking sound, like weight shifting on old wood, a branch bending under someone unseen. Her face drained of all color. We didn't open the curtains, didn't look outside, didn't breathe loud enough to be heard. The knocking circled her house, once slow, patient, rhythmic, then stopped beside the back door. Morning came like a reprieve we didn't deserve, but daylight didn't chase the feeling away. If anything, it made it worse, because daylight meant seeing the footprints in the dew on her porch. Long, bare, thin, leading to the door. Not away from it. We left the house in 15 minutes. I've moved 5 times since. Different apartments, different towns, different locks, alarms, routines. It never matters. Every few months, sometimes sooner, I hear it again, always at night, always soft enough to pretend it's nothing. 3 gentle knocks, spaced just far enough apart to feel like breathing. I know he'll never stop, because he never followed my car. He followed me, and every night, just before sleep pulls me under, I hear his whisper drifting through the dark like a promise he's never once broken. I saw you break down, and I'm not done watching. I should have known something was wrong the moment Maya swallowed the liquid, because the way she gasped didn't sound human. It sounded like something waking up inside her. But I keep telling myself it all started earlier, long before the drink, long before the money, back when the 4 of us, me, Maya, Brooke, and Jenna, were just trying to escape our lives for a weekend and pretend adulthood wasn't suffocating us, almost to him. Lake Arrowhead, in late winter, felt like the wrong place for a girl's trip. The air was sharp enough to sting the back of my throat, and the cabin we rented had this old timber smell, like wet bark and forgotten memories. But we were too tired to care. The 4 of us dragged our overstuffed duffels across the creaking floorboards, laughing too loudly, like forcing joy through exhaustion. I remember thinking the place felt hollow, like the quiet was waiting to be filled by something other than us. The bottle appeared on the first night. We'd barely unpacked, barely warmed up from the long drive, when Maya called out from the bedroom downstairs. "Guys, check this out." Her tone wasn't playful. It was curious, low, almost reverent. By the time we got to her, she was kneeling beside the bed frame, holding a dark glass bottle shaped like an antique flask, sealed with thick red wax and covered in dust. "No label?" Jenna said, staring at it like it might bite. "Probably some old-timey liquor," Brooke shrugged. "People hide stuff everywhere up here." But it didn't look like liquor. The glass wasn't quite black, it seemed to pull in the light around it, swallowing reflections instead of casting them back. And the wax smelled strangely metallic, like rust and cold coins. "Who hides something like that?" I asked. Maya smirked. "Who cares? Dare me to try it." She was joking, or maybe half joking, but we reacted too slowly. The words weren't even fully out of her mouth before she dug her thumb into the wax, cracked it open, and tilted the bottle back like she'd been waiting her whole life for a moment. Exactly like this. "Maya," I grabbed her wrist, but too late. One long, determined swallow, and the bottle was empty. Her face twitched, not in pain, more like surprise. Her pupils expanded so fast it felt like I was watching ink bloom in water. "Are you okay?" I whispered. She blinked slowly, too slowly. "I can see everything," she murmured, breath fogging in the chilly air. "Every door, every number, every path that leads to us winning." We exchanged, looks confused, nervous, unsure whether she was messing with us, but Maya didn't laugh. She just stared past us, like the room behind us was full of invisible math only she could see. That night I barely slept. I could hear her pacing the living room floor after everyone else went silent. I heard her whispering something, soft but frantic, like she was solving equations in her dreams or someone else's. By morning, everything had changed. "Did any of you check your accounts?" Maya asked over breakfast. Voice calm but wrong, like she was reciting lines in a play. "What? Why?" Jenna muttered, still half asleep. Maya pushed her phone across the table. "Look, deposits, massive ones, from anonymous sources, somehow hitting all of our accounts simultaneously." Brooke laughed first. "What is this? A glitch?" "It's not a glitch," Maya said. "I told you, I can see everything now." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. It didn't even try. We spent the day experiencing a kind of whiplash joy, booking student loan payments, sending in resignations we always fantasized about, looking at houses we couldn't afford. We felt invincible, rewarded, blessed. But inside, something gnawed at me, the way Maya watched each of us, tracking our movements like she was calculating, predicting, assessing. Her eyes didn't blink normally. They lingered too long. That night, while the others slept and the wind howled through the pine trees, I heard Maya downstairs. She wasn't talking this time. She was counting, whispering a string of numbers in a language that didn't belong to any human throat. When I crept to the loft railing and glanced down, she was standing by the window, head tilted at an unnatural angle. Her reflection in the glass slightly delayed, mouth still moving, long after the whispers stopped. I backed into bed and didn't sleep at all. The next morning, Brooke confronted her. "Maya, seriously, what's going on?" she demanded. "This isn't funny anymore. Where's the money coming from?" Maya turned slowly, her neck rotating too smoothly, too fluidly. "Why does it matter?" she asked. "You got what you wanted." "You're scaring us," I blurted before I could stop myself. Maya smiled. It was thin and wrong. "Riches come from somewhere," she said softly. "Someone must pay the difference." "What does that mean?" Jenna snapped. But Maya only lifted her shoulders, eyes dark, bottomless. "Balance," she whispered. None of us understood, not then. 20 minutes later, Brooke went out to warm up her car. She planned to drive into town, call her mom, maybe get some air, clear her head. She waved at me through the window as she stepped into the driver's seat. I waved back. I was still smiling when the car jerked forward, wheels screaming against ice that hadn't been there earlier, spinning wildly, violently, until the guardrail snapped like paper, and the car vanished into white emptiness. The scream I let out didn't feel like mine. The sheriff said it was an accident, a patch of black ice, bad luck. But when I turned to Maya, she didn't look shocked or upset. She looked satisfied. "Balance," she said. And that's when the dread truly began. I didn't sleep after Brooke died. I couldn't. The cabin felt smaller, tighter, like the air itself was pressing inward. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the spinning tires, the shattering guardrail, the whisper of Maya's voice saying that awful word. Balance. Money kept pouring in. More deposits, bigger ones. All 4 of our phones pinging with notifications except Brooke's. Her phone stayed silent on the countertop, where she'd left it charging. Jenna tried to leave the next morning. She packed her bag with shaking hands, stuffing clothes in, like she was trying to outrun the mountain. "We need to go," she whispered. "All of us." Now, Maya watched from the table, stirring a cup of coffee she hadn't sipped. "You won't get far," she murmured. "Don't threaten me," Jenna snapped. "I'm not threatening," Maya said. "I'm stating a fact." The silence that followed didn't feel natural. It felt staged. Jenna froze at the door, gripping the knob. For a second I thought she'd run, but she turned, breathing hard, swallow trembling down her throat. "What did you do?" Maya finally looked up, and her smile this time, it wasn't human. "You're welcome," she said softly. Jenna bolted. She didn't even put on her coat. I ran after her, yelling her name, but the cold air swallowed my voice. She made it 20 yards before she stopped. No, before she was stopped. Her body locked up like she'd hit an invisible wall. Her legs buckled. She folded to her knees, clutching her head as if something was clawing inside her skull. I dropped beside her, trying to hold her up, but her eyes rolled back and she whispered through clenched teeth, make it stop, make." And then she collapsed. Alive, but gone in a different way, like something essential had been scooped out of her mind. When we carried her back inside, Maya didn't help. She simply watched, fingers tapping the table in a rhythm too steady and precise for nerves. "Balance," she said again. I wanted to scream at her, hit her, shake her back into herself, but the truth was sinking in, sharp and sickening. This wasn't Maya anymore. Something else was wearing her, from the inside out. That night, the cabin became unbearable. Lights flickered in strange pulses. The shadows didn't fall where they should. I kept seeing Brooke's reflection in the window glass, though she wasn't there, her outline flickering between branches like she was trying to come back. Or maybe I was breaking. When I finally confronted Maya, she was in the living room, but not pacing this time. She was sitting perfectly still, facing the fireplace, hands folded in her lap. Her neck rotated, slow and deliberate. When I entered, as if she'd known exactly when I would. "You shouldn't fight it," she said. "What did you drink?" My voice cracked. "What did you let into you?" Her lips curved in a strange, eerie half-smile. "It's not about what I let in," she whispered. "It's about what it let me see." I stepped back, heartbeat hammering. "You killed Brooke." "I didn't kill anyone," she said. "I just shifted the cost. Energy must come from somewhere." "And, Jenna, Emma, an adjustment." She tilted her head further. "Too far. Do you know how many threads of probability I'm holding right now?" I grabbed the bottle empty, but still cold off the mantel. "You're done. This ends now. Whatever that thing is, whatever it wants." She stood in one seamless motion, body rising like a puppet pulled by strings. "It wants nothing," she said. "It gives. That's its nature. But gifts have weight, and you've taken more than anyone." "I didn't take anything," I whispered. "But you benefited." Her pupils expanded again, swallowing the iris. "And balance requires repayment." Something inside me snapped. I lunged for the front door, running so hard my vision blurred. I didn't look back, didn't breathe, didn't let myself hear the footsteps, or the whispers, or the cracking ice behind me. I ran until the trees thinned, until the cabin disappeared, until the air lost its bite. I didn't stop driving until I reached home. But the money didn't stop. Every morning, new deposits, new impossible numbers. I blocked notifications, changed banks, closed accounts. They always reopened, as if the system itself obeyed her now. Last night, I woke to a soft thud on my porch. When I opened the door, there was a package small, square, wrapped in plain brown paper. No footprints in the frost, no delivery marks, no sound except my own heart beating too fast. Inside was the bottle. Not empty. Not sealed. Still warm. Still waiting. And I know, deep down, that if I drink it, I'll understand everything Maya sees. But if I don't, someone else will pay the difference. I was 22 when Mia and I left Asheville, and even now, I can still feel how the twilight that evening felt wrong on my skin, like the mountains themselves were holding their breath. We were supposed to be escaping life, school, work, the kind of stress that had started following me into my dreams. Instead, the air felt too still, too expectant, as if something had been waiting for us long before we got in the car. Mia drove. She always did. Control steadied her. It rattled me. The Blue Ridge stretched out in long, rolling silhouettes, the last streaks of sun smearing pink across the ridges. I remember pressing my forehead to the cold window and thinking the woods looked darker than usual, like the pines were leaning inward. "We needed this trip," Mia said, brushing her hair off her cheek. "Yeah," I whispered, though I didn't feel it. "Just a couple days. Just us." I didn't tell her I'd been having those dreams again. The ones where I was driving down a road that wasn't a road, where trees moved in ways trees shouldn't. She'd laugh, or worse, she'd worry. The GPS on my dash flickered once, just a brief, static ripple. I might not have even noticed if it hadn't been for the sound it made, this tiny digital shiver, like someone whispering through wires. "You see that?" I asked. "Probably just losing signal," Mia muttered, "mountain roads and all." But the screen blinked again, longer this time. The map dissolved into pixelated snow. Then, like a camera adjusting focus, redrew itself with a new route I swear hadn't existed 5 seconds before. A thin road. No name. Just a single white line slicing straight into dense green forest. Mia slowed. "That's not real, right?" I tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "Maybe it's some kind of back road." "We're in the middle of nowhere," she said. "Everything out here is already a back road." She was right, but curiosity was her curse, and her fuel. "Let's just try it," she said, already turning the wheel. Worst case, we turn around. The new road didn't feel like a road at all. It felt like a mistake. The asphalt was narrow, cracked, half swallowed by roots. Branches sagged low overhead, brushing the roof with papery scratches that made my skin crawl. The smell of wet leaves seeped in through the vents, dank, sour, almost metallic. "Jesus," Mia said. "When was this last used? The 40 seconds?" I clutched the door. "Maybe we should go back." "Relax," she said. "It's fine." But the farther we drove, the heavier the air felt. I kept noticing little things. The silence of the woods, too complete. The way the temperature seemed to drop, even though dusk was still settling. The slight pressure behind my eyes, like altitude sickness. And then, we saw it. The train. It sprawled across the road, a rusted carcass of a freight line, long and dark and wrong. No graffiti, no lights, not even the faint hum of engines cooling. Just empty metal, cutting off our path like a barrier someone had placed there deliberately. "What the hell?" Mia whispered. I swallowed hard. "Just back up. There's space." She shifted into reverse, or tried to. The engine sputtered, resisting like it didn't want to move. A shiver ran up my spine. "Come on," she muttered, tapping the gas. "Don't do this." I stared into the tree line, and that's when I saw them. Shapes. At first just shadows, then movement, then form. Low to the ground, too smooth. Two synchronized creatures that knew each other's rhythms, like a pack. One stepped forward, not fully into the light, but enough for me to catch the glint of something long and angled in its hand. A blade, a tool, I couldn't tell. Another crouched behind the car, head tilted sharply, like it was studying our tires. A third lingered just to the right of the train's shadow. Its outline subtly wrong, limbs too long, or too bent. My mouth went dry. "Mia, go. Just go." "I'm trying." Her voice broke as the car lurched backward suddenly, like something had pushed it. My phone vibrated in my hand. Unknown sender. Not a number. Not even a name. A message. "Turn off the engine. We're coming." Then a second notification. A photo. Our taillights. Taken seconds ago. Taken from behind the car. I froze. My breath hitched so hard, my chest hurt. Mia, I croaked. Drive. She didn't question it. She slammed the gear shift, floored the gas, and the car shot sideways into the ditch with a bone-shaking crunch of roots and metal. The shapes lunged. Something slapped the rear window hard enough to rattle the glass, leaving a long, smeared mark across it, like a hand dragging tar or sap or something thicker. Branches clawed the car as Mia floored it, swerving through underbrush until suddenly, impossibly, the forest broke open and we skidded onto clean asphalt, smooth, gray, modern. The GPS screen lit up normally again. A new recalculation. A cheerful ding. We didn't speak. Not until we were miles away. And even then, all I could whisper was, that road wasn't supposed to exist. I never told her the worst part. I never deleted the message. Because the timestamp didn't match our clock. It was 3 minutes into the future. I didn't sleep that night. Not after we checked into the motel. Not after the shower that refused to heat. Not after Mia cracked nervous jokes until her voice faded into uneasy silence. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smear on the rear window. When Mia finally drifted off, curled on her side like she was bracing against something, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my phone. The message was still there. But the photo had changed. Same angle, same taillights. But now the trees in the background were different, closer, denser, bending toward the camera, as if the forest itself had taken the picture. I reached out with a shaking hand and locked the screen. Maybe exhaustion was playing tricks on me, maybe stress, maybe both. But I knew what I felt. The same pressure behind my eyes from that road, the sense that something had followed us out. A soft knock startled me. Mia mumbled, "Doors locked. Forget it." But the knock came again. A slow, deliberate tap, tap, tap. I approached the peephole. Nobody stood outside. Only the empty parking lot washed in yellow motel light. I backed away fast, my pulse hammering. My phone lit again. Another unknown message. Look out the window. A cold wave rolled through me. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, not that one. My gaze snapped to the other window. The one half hidden by the heavy motel curtains. The one directly behind me. I swallowed a scream as I turned. The curtain swayed slightly, as if something had just moved away from it. No footsteps. No wind. No explanation. "Mia," I whispered. "Wake up. Please wake up." She stirred, rubbing her face. "What time is it? You need to see this." "I need to pee," she muttered, stumbling toward the bathroom. The lock clicked behind her. As soon as she closed the door, my phone vibrated again. A picture this time. The bathroom door. Taken from inside the bathroom. I bolted toward the door, pounding on it. "Mia, Mia, answer me, right now." "What?" she yelled. "I'm literally peeing." I tried the handle. Unlocked. I swung it open. Empty. Light buzzing overhead. Shower curtain still. "Mia?" She peeked from the bedroom doorway, confused. "Dude, what is wrong with you?" I stared at the empty bathroom, my throat tightening. I thought you were in here." "I was. In the other one," she said, pointing to the second bathroom near the kitchenette. "We have two, remember? This place is weirdly fancy." I hadn't even noticed. That's when the power went out. A pop, a flicker, then darkness swallowing the room. "Mia." "I'm right here." We huddled near the bed as emergency lights flickered to life in the hallway outside, casting everything in a washed-out red glow. Like we were underwater. My phone lit up again, with unbearable brightness. A map. A route. The same thin white line from earlier. The road. Only this time, a blinking blue dot pulsed at the end of it. Our location. And it was getting closer. "Mia," I whispered. "We need to leave. Now." She didn't argue. She grabbed her keys, her bag, her shoes, though she didn't put them on, and we bolted through the hall, down the stairs, into the cold parking lot. The night air tasted metallic, sharp in my throat. As soon as she unlocked the car, I saw it. The smear on the rear window wasn't a smear anymore. It had drip marks. Longer, lower, like gravity was pulling something wet downward. "Mia," I rasped. "Don't look. Just drive." She hesitated, but my voice must have scared her because she obeyed immediately. The tires screeched as she floored it onto the empty highway. For 20 minutes, neither of us spoke. Then, "What did you see back there?" she asked, voice trembling. I shook my head. "I don't know. Are we in danger?" I swallowed hard. I think we already were. Phone vibration. I flinched so violently, I almost dropped it. A new message. Just 4 words. "You took the wrong exit." My breath hitched. My ears rang. "We didn't exit," Mia whispered. "We didn't." Her words cut off as the GPS recalculated on its own. The screen glitched. Static. Pixels bending like heat waves. Then the map redrew itself into something that made my entire body lock up. We were already on the road. The thin white line. The invented one. But outside the windows was only the normal highway. Familiar signage. Distant city lights. Cars. Civilization. Yet the GPS insisted otherwise. "Mia," I said slowly, "pull over." "No, not again. I'm not." "Mia, pull over." She did. Eventually, hesitantly. The shoulder gravel crunched under the tires. I stared through the windshield, heart pounding in my ears. Everything seemed normal, but the silence was wrong. I didn't realize how wrong until the headlights flickered over something further down the shoulder. A train car, a single rusted freight car, sitting by itself in the tall grass, as if it had always been part of the landscape. Mia whispered, "No, no, no, no." Shapes slipped between the grass. Familiar movements, familiar tilts of heads, familiar smoothness of motion. A message buzzed onto my phone. "Turn off the engine. We can see you." My throat closed. I finally understood. The road hadn't followed us. It had been beneath us the entire time. Reality was the glitch. I don't know what came after, whether Mia cried, whether I screamed, whether the shapes reached the car or were waiting for us to exit. My memory fractures at the edges like a corrupted file. But I know this. Every night since, my phone flickers with notifications I can't capture. Maps redraw themselves. Routes appear where no roads exist. And sometimes, when I look out the window, I swear I see that smear again, long, dark, dripping slowly downward. Like something patient, something curious, something still inviting me back. I should have kept driving. That's the first thought that still claws its way up my spine whenever I replay that night. Whenever a passing truck slows a little too long beside my car. Whenever a motel hallway feels a shade too quiet. But back then, I didn't have those instincts sharpened by fear. I was just a 29-year-old woman heading home after a girls' trip through Texarkana. My mind still buzzing with leftover laughter. My shoulders still loose from shared drinks and bad karaoke. The highway was almost empty. Just my headlights, stretching ahead like a thin promise. The Arkansas tree line swallowed the sky, and when the sun finally dropped, the dark came fast, thick, weighty, pressing. By the time the Blue Willow Motel sign flickered into view, its neon glow twitching like a dying nerve, I felt the heavy pull of exhaustion. The blue light washed over the cracked parking lot, casting everything in a bruised haze. I told myself it was just a night, one room, one sleep, then home. Inside the lobby, I noticed the smell first, a mix of dust and something metallic, faint but sharp enough to taste. The air had the stale heaviness of a place no one had laughed in for a long time. The man at the counter looked up as I approached. He was older, maybe late 50s, with gray stubble and watery eyes that seemed to focus too hard on me. Or maybe they focused on my luggage. Or my hands. "Traveling alone?" he asked, as though that mattered more than the price. "Yeah, just passing through," I said. Casual, careless. He smiled a little too wide, a flash of yellowed teeth. "Not many do," he murmured, and slid a key toward me. A real metal key, not a card. Room 12 was engraved into it. As I walked to my car to grab my bag, the motel stretched along a single row, each door the same pale blue peeling into gray. The night pressed close. No cars except mine. No voices, no sound but the low hum of the neon sign buzzing like it was trying to speak. Room 12's doorknob felt colder than I expected. Inside, everything was tired. The curtains sagged on their rods. The carpet smelled faintly of mildew, and the air had that strange weighted silence that isn't absence but anticipation. The lock resisted for a second before clicking into place. I checked it again. Then again. I didn't know why. Maybe the quiet was getting to me. I set my bag on the bed, scrolled my phone a bit, no signal inside the room, and debated opening the door just to breathe outside air again. But something told me not to. I turned on the TV for background noise. Static. Fine. Silence, it was. By the time I drifted off, the room felt like it was holding its breath. I woke up to a soft knock. 1:07 a.m. I remember the numbers clearly, glowing from my phone screen. The knock wasn't confident. It was testing like fingertips brushing the surface of my fear. I froze, listening. 5 minutes later, another knock, slightly louder. The doorknob twisted slowly, deliberately, as though someone was deciding how much pressure it would take to break in. My breath sat like a stone in my throat. Then a third knock, hard and impatient, followed by a low voice, inches from the wood. "I know you're awake." I clamped a hand over my mouth to stop the sound that almost escaped me. My heart wasn't beating. Normally it was shuddering, rattling, trying to break free. Footsteps drifted along the row of rooms, measured, careful. Then another knock, farther down. Another doorknob rattling. Another room tested. They weren't looking for someone specific. They were looking for anyone stupid enough to leave a door unlocked. I slid off the bed and pressed my back against the wall, knees folded to my chest. Every creak of the floorboards outside felt like fingers slipping under the door. At some point, reckless curiosity or survival kicked in, and I crept to the window. The curtains felt gritty between my fingers as I pulled them a fraction of an inch. A pickup truck idled in the lot. 3 silhouettes sat inside. One lifted a cigarette to his mouth, the ember flaring bright. Then he exhaled and pointed directly at my window. I dropped the curtain so fast I almost tore it. My mind spun options, consequences, escape routes. The sheriff's office was probably miles away. I hadn't seen a single other guest. And the man at the counter, I didn't know if he was part of this, or afraid to intervene, or something else entirely. I held my breath, listening for the next knock, the next twist of the knob, the next voice. Silence settled like dust, thick and smothering. Then, from the far right end of the motel, I heard a door open. Then a man's laugh, dry, low, too close to the sound someone makes when they finally find something they've been looking for. My body moved before my mind caught up. I grabbed my keys, my bag, my shoes. And as I reached the door, adrenaline drowned, out exhaustion, fear, reason. I unlatched the lock. I ran. The cold night air slapped my skin as I shoved the door open. My feet hit the concrete, and I sprinted toward my car. My keys jingled like a warning bell. A figure peeled out from the shadows, lunging. His fingers grazed my shoulder, warm, real, horrifying. "Got you." I slammed into the driver's seat, slammed the lock, slammed my shaking hands on the ignition. The engine coughed once before roaring to life. He pounded on the window, shouting something I couldn't hear, over my heartbeat and the engine and the raw panic ripping through me. I tore out of the parking lot, gravel spraying behind me. I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I did, I knew I would see them chasing me. And I didn't want to know how many there were. I drove until my vision blurred from tears and exhaustion, until the neon bruised blue glow of the motel faded behind the dark trees. The highway felt like salvation and danger, at the same time open but too empty, too quiet. When I finally saw a gas station, bright and buzzing with fluorescent lights, I pulled in and sat shaking in my car for a full minute before forcing myself out. Inside, the cashier, a woman in her 40s, looked up with a startled expression. "Are you okay?" she asked. "No," I said, my voice thin. I just need to call someone." "Phone's right there," she said gently, nodding toward the wall. My hands trembled so badly I dropped the receiver twice before managing to hit 911. I told the operator everything, the motel name, the knocks, the man grabbing me, the truck. My voice sounded distant, hollow. A sheriff met me 20 minutes later, his patrol car pulling in beside mine, with a calmness that felt almost surreal. He walked me through everything again, his questions methodical. "Did you see faces? Why?" "No." "Weapons? Weapons?" "No." "Anyone else staying there?" I don't know. I didn't hear anyone." Finally, he exhaled, scratched his jaw, and said, "That motel's been trouble for years." His tone wasn't dramatic. It was weary, resigned. "People go missing round there, usually drifters, women traveling alone. Folks say they see lights on in empty rooms. Sometimes we find abandoned cars." "Cars?" I repeated, my stomach hollowing out. He nodded, but no bodies. A cold wave washed down my spine. My hands curled around my sleeves to keep them from shaking. The sheriff offered to escort me back to the highway. I said yes. I wish I could say the fear faded when dawn came, but fear doesn't work like that. It sinks in, roots itself, stays. For the first few nights, every sound snapped me awake: the settling of my apartment walls, the scrape of branches outside, the rumble of distant traffic. My mind replayed that doorknob turning, that whisper, that finger pointing at my window. "I know you're awake." Those 4 words lodged themselves into my skull. I tried telling myself I was safe now, but safety felt like a story I'd stopped believing in. The nightmares began about a week later. Always the same. I'm back in room 12, but the walls are breathing slow, steady, like lungs expanding and contracting. The door handle twitches. A whisper leaks through the frame. Then the silhouette of a truck creeps across the curtain, like a shadow hungry for shape. And just when the door swings inward, I wake, heart clawing at my ribs, sheets soaked with sweat. One night, in the dream, the man's fingers didn't just graze my shoulder. They hooked around it, warm and heavy, pulling me back. I felt the heat of his breath on my neck. "Found you." I woke up, screaming. Sleep became something I avoided. I left the lights on. I double-checked my locks the way I had at the motel once, twice, again. I told myself it was habit, not paranoia. But deep down, I knew the truth. The motel wasn't done with me. Fear does something strange when it festers. It rewires you, makes you notice things you used to shrug off. A truck slowing beside me on the road. A stranger's lingering glance. Footsteps behind me. Too close. Too slow. Every night, I replayed the same question. Why? Room 12? Why me? Was it random? Or had someone watched me pull in? Was the man at the counter part of it? Did he choose room 12? For a reason? The sheriff called once to say they searched the motel grounds and found nothing. Doors padlocked. No one there. Truck gone. He said it like that was supposed to reassure me. It didn't. 2 weeks after I got home, I walked into my apartment building, late, arms full of groceries, brain foggy from lack of sleep. The hallway smelled faintly of detergent and carpet cleaner. Normal, comforting. Then I saw it. A small, folded piece of paper under my door. No envelope. Just a square of motel receipt thin paper. My hands went cold before I touched it. Inside, written in uneven block letters, Room 12 is always waiting. My throat closed. I stumbled back so fast I hit the opposite wall, the groceries spilling across the floor. My vision tunneled. I wasn't imagining it. They knew where I lived. Or someone did. The fear that followed wasn't explosive. It was suffocating. Slow, heavy, like sinking into cold water. I called the sheriff. He came. He looked at the paper. He asked if I'd told anyone details about that night. I hadn't. He asked if anyone had a key to my apartment. Only the building manager. He asked if maybe it was a prank. Prank. The word made my hands curl into fists. He left without answers. I didn't sleep at all that night, or the one after. Every creak of the hallway made my pulse spike. I watched the door handle like it might twist again, the way it had in room 12. My mind kept returning to the man's voice, low, certain. I know you're awake. Now, I was. Always awake. A month later, I moved across the state. New apartment. New locks. New routines. But fear is portable. It packs itself neatly, fits into any space. The nightmares still come. The phone calls from unknown numbers at 1 a.m. still happen. Sometimes I hear knocking in the middle of the night, soft, testing. I tell myself it's pipes, or the wind. But last week, I walked past my apartment window and froze. Outside, parked across the street in the shade of a dead streetlight, was a truck. Old, dark, familiar. A silhouette sat behind the wheel, smoking, watching, waiting. The ember flared, a tiny red eye in the dark. And though I couldn't see his face, I felt the certainty settle into my bones, slow, cold, absolute. Someone is still looking for room 12. And they think I left the door open. If you'd like the next step, thumbnail text, cinematic title variants, voiceover style, expanded 10K version, or a trailer style intro, just tell me. The first time I saw the blue truck, the desert was so quiet, it felt like it was listening to us. Not watching, listening. That's what unsettled me before anything else. Erica and I had left Las Cruces barely an hour earlier. Windows cracked, the dry heat curling into the car like an invisible animal. It was supposed to be our reset trip, just two friends escaping a year of breakups, layoffs, and disappointment thick enough to swallow whole. I remember tapping the steering wheel, thinking the calm felt too thin, like skin stretched over something pulsing below. Behind us, the road shimmered in sun-baked waves. That's when I spotted it. An old blue pickup, the kind that looked like it slept in junkyards. Rust clung to its panels like crusted wounds. The grille was bent, the headlights uneven, one dull, the other flickering every few seconds like a dying eye. I glanced at Erica. You see that? Probably a rancher. But her voice wavered, just slightly. Enough to tell me she was cataloging it too. For a while it hung back several car lengths. Slow, steady, never passing. I tried shaking it off. The desert can warp your sense of distance. Everything looks closer or farther than it really is. But when we eventually pulled into a gas station near a cluster of leaning power lines, the truck glided in behind us with a lazy menace, rolling to a stop at a pump 2 down. The heat was a suffocating blanket, gasoline, asphalt, something metallic in the air. Inside the convenience store, the clerk, a heavy-set man with deep-set eyes, kept glancing out the window. "You girls alone?" he asked, voice dropping as if the walls might report him. I forced a smile. "We're fine, just passing through." He leaned closer. "Be careful on the 601. Some folks out there go hunting at night." Erica asked, "Like animals?" He didn't blink. "Not always." The words sank into my stomach like cold syrup. Back in the car, the air felt tighter. We pulled out, and of course the blue truck eased out right behind us. Too synchronized to be coincidence. I kept checking the rear view, my pulse tapping against my wrist. The truck stayed close, maybe 2 car lengths. Headlights dim, but steady. "Maybe he just likes the same route," Erica said. "Or maybe he likes us." She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Another 10 minutes and the truck inched closer, almost touching our bumper. Then, It swerved slightly to the left, enough to make a point, enough for the sun to glance across the windshield and show me something that made my skin tighten over bone. There was no face, not a mask, not a shadow, just a pale, featureless void where a person should have been. I blinked hard, convinced it was the glare, or my anxiety twisting shapes into nightmares. But Erica's sharp inhale told me she'd seen something too. "Don't look," she whispered. "Don't keep staring." "I'm not." "You are." A horn blared behind us, one long, deliberate honk. My hands tightened on the wheel. The desert stretched endlessly, nowhere to hide. The road narrowed ahead, bending around a dip in the landscape. And that's when the truck surged forward, aligning itself beside us. The sun caught the driver's window again. Still no face. Just pale skin, smooth, blank, wrong. The truck edged closer, nudging us toward the shoulder, the tires screaming against gravel. Erica grabbed the dashboard. "He's trying to push us off the road," she said, voice barely a breath. "I know." Then I saw it, a dirt turnoff, unmarked, barely a suggestion of a path vanishing into open desert. "Take it," I said. "Now." She didn't question. She yanked the wheel, and we shot onto the dirt trail, the car bucking violently as if fighting the decision. Behind us, the blue truck skidded, fish-tailed, then corrected, lunging after us. "Drive," I yelled. "I'm trying." The desert around us blurred into beige and burnt gold, the sky too wide, too empty. Dust clouds swallowed everything, choking the air and turning the mirrors into static. Still, we heard him, the roar of the engine, the grind of gears, the snarling metal. Closer, then farther, then closer again, like he was controlling distance on purpose. My vision tunneled. The heat felt alive, squeezing us from all sides. Erica's knuckles whitened on the wheel. The car rattled so hard my teeth clacked. Then suddenly, nothing. The roaring stopped. The dust settled. Silence fell so abruptly, it was like someone had pressed a hand over the world's mouth. Erica slowed to a crawl. "Do you see him?" "No." We waited. A minute, 2, 5. The desert stared back, still and ancient. I finally exhaled. "Let's get out of here." We circled back to the main highway, both shaking, and drove straight to Tucson, not stopping until we reached the sheriff's office. The deputy who took our statement listened quietly, jaw clenched. "That truck you described," he said, leaning forward. "We've had incidents, women traveling alone. Some never checked in." "What do you mean, incidents?" He tapped a pen against the table. "Disappearances, sightings. That road draws the wrong kind of attention after dark." I felt something cold coil in my chest. Erica grabbed my hand under the table. "Did you catch him?" she whispered. The deputy didn't answer. We left with a warning too. Avoid the 601 for a while, which felt like telling someone to avoid lightning, useless and late. We checked into a motel for the night. I barely slept, kept jolting awake. Certain, I heard an engine idling outside our door. I stared through the curtains more times than I could count. But the parking lot stayed empty, except for a couple of RVs and a dusty sedan. By sunrise, my nerves were threadbare. We packed up and left, both craving home. But as we merged back onto the highway, something in Erica's face changed, fear sharpening her features. "Don't look left," she whispered. "Just don't." Of course, I looked. Perched on a rocky hill, half hidden behind brush, was the same blue truck, engine silent, windows dark as if they swallowed light, facing the highway. Watching cars pass. Waiting. My breath stuttered. The morning sun glinted off its windshield. A wink, a signal, a promise. "He found us," I said. Erica's hands trembled on the wheel. The truck didn't move, didn't start, just watched. But predators don't always chase. Sometimes they wait. And we drove on, miles piling behind us, yet I couldn't stop looking back, certain the desert hadn't finished listening to us yet. I told myself we were safe once the hill vanished behind the horizon. But the lie barely held 30 minutes. The desert has a way of warping your sense of distance. One second you're certain something is gone. The next, it's right beside you again, as if space itself bends for the things that want you. We were maybe 10 miles from the state border when I spotted something in the mirror, a speck of blue. Too small to make out, too persistent to ignore. "No," I whispered. "Not again." Erica's grip tightened. "Tell me you're kidding." "I'm not." She didn't turn around, didn't breathe for a moment. "It can't be him. There's no way he—" The speck grew, stretching into the shape of a truck. Blue, rusted, uneven headlights. He wasn't chasing, just tailing. Far enough to pretend coincidence, close enough to prove intention. I felt the panic rising, thick as molasses. Why isn't he coming closer? "That's worse," Erica said. "It's like he wants us to know he can, but doesn't need to." The sun climbed higher, bleaching the sky. The heat sharpened, vibrating at the edges of my vision. Every bump in the road felt like a message. He's still here. He's still thinking. He's still choosing. By the time we stopped for gas near a small reservation town, the truck wasn't behind us anymore. I didn't trust it. I scanned every car, every row of pumps, expecting the blue hood to materialize like a nightmare, learning to be real. Inside the station, the cashier, a woman in her 60s with sharp black eyes, watched me wipe sweat from my palms. "You all right, honey?" she asked. I opened my mouth to say yes. What slipped out was, "Someone's following us." Her expression didn't shift. That scared me more. What kind of someone? A man, or, I don't know, a truck. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Describe him." I hesitated, then told her about the blank face, a detail I'd been trying to rationalize into sunlight, glare, or panic hallucination. The cashier's breath caught. "You girls head back home," she murmured. "Right now. Don't linger on this road." "Do you know something?" Erica asked. The woman didn't answer. Not directly. "Some things out here look human until you get too close." I didn't want to understand. I really didn't. We left quickly. The sky had turned a strange color, too pale, too washed out. The kind of sky that feels emptied of all explanation. Another hour passed. No truck. We reached the edge of the border, highway thinning, mountains curling into the distance. My muscles finally began to loosen. "I think we lost him," Erica said, as if saying it aloud made it real. Maybe. But the desert wasn't done with us. As we rounded a bend near a dried-up creek bed, I saw it blue metal glinting between mesquite branches, parked just off the shoulder. Silent. Waiting. "Go," I said, stomach dropping. Erica's foot slammed the pedal. The car lurched forward, my vision speckled with black dots. The truck didn't move, not right away. It just sat there, like a dead animal posed upright. Then, its headlights flicked on. One bright, one dim. A grotesque wink. The engine roared to life, rattling the ground. Dust exploded behind it as it rolled onto the road, slow, deliberate, like it wanted to savor every second. "He's toying with us," Erica whispered. "No, he's choosing the moment." The pursuit this time wasn't fast. It wasn't a chase. It was a stalk. The truck stayed several car lengths behind, accelerating when we did, slowing when we did, matching us perfectly, intimate in its mimicry. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt packed with hot sand. "What does he want?" Erica cried. "I don't know." Of all the things to fear, the not knowing hollowed me out the most. The road narrowed between two stone ridges. The truck surged forward suddenly, closing the gap. His bumper skimmed ours, a kiss of metal that shuddered through the car. "Stop," I screamed. "I can't." He rammed us again, this time harder. The car fishtailed. I tasted blood where I bit my tongue. Ahead, the ridge opened into a sloping stretch of loose gravel. If we hit it wrong, we'd flip. "Brake," I yelled. Erica slammed her foot down. The tires skidded. The truck barreled past us, missing our front bumper by inches, then screeched sideways in a spray of dust blocking the road. We froze. The truck idled, angled across the asphalt, sealing our path like a gate. "Reverse," I whispered. "Reverse now." Erica threw the car into reverse, tires screaming. The truck didn't follow. It only angled slightly, giving us just enough room and daring us to make a choice. "Go around it," I said. "That's insane. We don't have time." She swallowed hard, then pressed the gas. Gravel spat beneath us. The side of the truck scraped against our doors, a sickening metal wail. I didn't look in the window. I didn't want to see if the void face was inches from mine. We scraped past, the world vibrating with the sound, then shot forward onto open road. The truck didn't immediately pursue. It stayed still, watching again, waiting. But I didn't trust the pause. Predators rest, only when they know the prey won't outrun them. By sunset, we hit city limits, lights, cars, people, civilization. I'd never felt safer. We drove straight home, barely speaking, both convinced that sunlight and street lamps could drown whatever followed us. We were wrong. The next morning, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls. Unknown number. No voicemail. Just silence on the other end when I picked up the 4th time. Then, at 9:14 a.m., a text came through. A single photo. Taken from a distance. Through brush. Looking at my apartment building. Below it, no caption. Just a bluish reflection in the corner, shiny metal, catching light. Like a truck hood. I stared at it until my vision blurred. That afternoon, walking to my car, I felt something shift in the air, heat bending, dust stirring. The kind of movement you don't see, only sense. I looked up the hill near the complex. Blue. Rusted. Still. Watching. He didn't need the desert anymore. He'd found where I lived. And the worst part, the part I can't shake, is the certainty blooming in my gut. That blank face I saw wasn't a trick of the sun. It didn't reflect light. It absorbed it, as if it was still shaping itself. Still deciding what features to wear. Still learning me. And tonight, when the world gets quiet again, I think it'll come down from that hill. Because some hunters don't chase. They wait. And when you're tired enough, scared enough, convinced enough that you've outrun them, that's when they finally move. The air tasted like metal and rain the night our GPS rerouted us into the woods, and even now, months later, I swear I can still feel that moment crawling under my skin whenever I'm alone in the dark. Rachel and I were supposed to be on a simple girls' trip, 25. Tired of pretending adulthood wasn't stressing us into early wrinkles. Driving through the Smokies on a humid July night, with the windows cracked and the radio humming low. I remember thinking the breeze felt too warm, the way air feels inside a laundromat when the dryers are running. Heavy, artificial, like something breathing back at you. Rachel tapped the center console. "GPS is bugging out again," she muttered, trying to sound casual. But she kept lifting her foot on and off the gas, like she couldn't quite decide whether she still wanted to be on that road. The screen flickered once white static, then black before redrawing the route onto a thin gray line snaking into an area marked nothing. "Shortcut," she offered. She always tried to be the optimistic one, but her voice cracked like a hinge that needed oil. I stared at the screen. The new road didn't even have a name. Just a directional arrow telling us to turn right in 400 feet, and then 200, and then 50. My stomach shrank the way it does before a roller coaster drops. Still, I nodded, pretending it didn't bother me. Because admitting I was scared would have made it real. So we turned. The pavement narrowed fast, grass licking the edges. Trees leaned inward, branches scraping the roof with shrill, fingernail-like sounds. "Why does it feel like it's getting tighter?" Rachel said, shifting forward in her seat. "Probably an access road." I lied. But the headlights felt swallowed whole by the woods, and the night seemed to thicken around us, the way air thickens before a storm. For 20 minutes, the GPS didn't say a word. Then, without warning, the beams caught metal long, rusted, hulking metal, and I sucked in a breath so hard it hurt. A freight train stretched across the road ahead of us. Dead, abandoned, completely blocking the path. Boxcars hung open like broken mouths. One, touched by headlights, window had a perfect, fist-sized hole in the center. The rest were shattered in spiderweb patterns, as if something inside had tried to get out, or something outside had tried to get in. "No way," Rachel whispered. Her hands were already trembling. "There's no track here. There's no anything here." The woods smothered every sound, the engine, our breathing, the tick of cooling metal. Even the insects were silent. "Turn around," I said, trying to keep my voice level. I expected the usual crunch of tires on gravel as she reversed. Instead, I heard a sound that didn't belong, soft movement behind us, low to the ground. Then another. My throat tightened instantly. "Do you hear that?" "No," she said too quickly. She lied worse than I did. Something shifted between the trees behind the car. A shape low, fluid, too deliberate to be an animal. Another shape slipped from one trunk to the next, tall and thin. I couldn't see faces. Only outlines, human-sized, human-shaped. But wrong. Wrong in the way they moved. Wrong in the way they seemed to hover before stepping. Wrong in the way they never made a single twig snap beneath their feet. "Don't look at them," I whispered, not sure why I said it. My pulse hammered in my ears. One stepped closer to the beam of the taillight, and the faint red glow caught a glint of metal in its hand. Something long, reflective, not a knife. Something more like a tool. Another one, crouched low behind a knot of vines, watching us through the slits like it had been waiting for us for hours. Rachel choked on a breath. "Back up," I said. "Back up now." She hit the reverse, but the road was too narrow, and the bumper scraped against something, roots, rocks. I didn't care as long as she kept moving. My phone buzzed in my lap. The vibration shot through me like a shock. I looked down. "Where are you going? Where are you going?" My breath stopped. Another message appeared instantly. "Why known? Why didn't you stop?" A third message. A photo. Blurry. Dark. But unmistakable. Our car. Taken from behind. Taken just minutes, maybe seconds ago. "Go," I rasped. "Go, Rachel, go." She didn't hesitate again. She floored it, swerving close enough to the abandoned train that the bumper scraped the rusted metal with a metallic scream. The impact jolted us violently, but it also spun us, just enough that the car shot past the shapes as they lunged. I saw one out of the corner of my eye, a pale palm slamming against the trunk, leaving a smear of something dark. Not mud, not oil. More organic. I didn't let myself think about it. Rachel didn't breathe until we reached the main highway again, both of us shaking so hard we couldn't hold the wheel steady. She pulled over at a gas station, her shoulders shaking, her voice breaking into thin, useless fragments of words that didn't form sentences. I tried to calm her, even though my own voice felt like it didn't belong to me. "We're fine," I kept saying. "We're fine. We're out. We're fine." But that wasn't true, not even close. Because when I checked my phone again, the entire thread of messages was gone. No number, no conversation, not even a notification. Messages don't vanish like that. They don't erase themselves. And something inside me knew with cold certainty that whoever or whatever waited by that abandoned freight train had already slipped inside my world long before we ever got there. The next morning, sunlight didn't help. The world looked the same, but I didn't feel the same. I kept thinking about the shapes, how quiet they were, how intentional their movements seemed, how the text messages had arrived exactly as we were about to escape, as if someone had been watching from inches away. "Let's just forget it," Rachel insisted over breakfast, picking at her toast with shaking hands. It was weird, freaky, but it's over. But her eyes kept drifting to the window behind me, at shadows, at reflections, at nothing. Later that day, on the drive back to Knoxville, I realized she'd shut off her own GPS. "Just using the main roads," she said, forcing a smile. But she kept checking the mirrors. She kept swallowing too much. The sun was bright and honest, but she still drove like something was tailing us. I didn't tell her that I kept checking my phone every 10 minutes, or that every time the screen lit, My stomach plunged, expecting another unknown message. A week passed, then 2, then 4. I tried to go back to normal work, errands, texting friends. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, I'd wake up with the sharp, slicing sound of branches scraping the car, roof echoing in my memory. I started sleeping with a light on. I told no one, not even Rachel. Then in August I got a new message. Unknown. You never answered me. My hands went numb. I stared at the screen until the text blurred. No number, no contact info. Not even an option to call back. Just the words glowing in the dark. I didn't delete it. I couldn't. I needed proof that it was real. But the next morning, it was gone. Just like the others, the phone looked wiped clean. Rachel stopped meeting up. She said she was busy, but her voice had the same thin crack it had the night the GPS rerouted us. Like she wasn't sleeping. Like the darkness behind her eyes had deepened. 2 months after the trip, she finally admitted something. We were sitting in her living room, blinds closed even though it was early afternoon. She kept wringing her hands in her lap like a nervous child. Something's wrong with my mirrors, she whispered. I felt my pulse shift. What do you mean? Just weird reflections. Things behind me that aren't there when I turn around. She swallowed. Things that look like shadows, shaped like people. A coldness opened in my chest like a descending elevator. She gave a trembling laugh, brushing hair behind her ear. I'm probably just stressed, but there was nothing funny in her eyes. I wanted to tell her about my messages. I wanted to tell her I felt watched every time I walked to my car at night, that I'd started crossing the street to avoid anyone standing too still, too quiet. But I didn't want to make it real. Then everything escalated. It was late September when I heard the sound again, branches scraping a car roof. Except it wasn't a car. It was my apartment window. I froze in place, the air going thin as paper. Another scrape. Something dragging lightly across the glass. Just once, like a fingertip. I forced myself to peek through the blinds. Nothing. Just the street lamp, the empty parking lot, and my reflection. Except no, not just me. For the briefest moment, behind my own reflection, I saw another shape. Too tall, too still, standing just behind my left shoulder. By the time I ripped the blinds back fully, the shape was gone. 2 nights later, the final message came. Unknown. You're going the wrong way. I wasn't driving. I wasn't even moving. I was lying in bed, and suddenly, with a force I can't explain, I understood the words weren't about roads. They weren't directions. They weren't even warnings. They were reminders. Like someone or something had been guiding me since the night in the woods, and I'd done something to disappoint it. My phone buzzed again. I forced myself to look. Unknown. Come back. The screen went black before I could blink. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. Dawn came slowly, painfully. When I finally checked the phone again, the messages were gone. Not erased, not archived. Gone like they'd never existed. That morning, I drove to see Rachel. Her car sat in the driveway. Her blinds were closed. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I knocked 3 times before trying the handle. The door wasn't locked. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Living room empty, kitchen empty, bedroom empty. No sign of struggle. No sign she'd left. Just her phone sitting on the counter. Screen shattered. When I picked it up, the cracked glass lit once, showing one lingering notification she hadn't opened. Unknown. Where did you go? I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what followed us out of those woods. I don't know what waits by that abandoned train, watching for headlights that don't belong. All I know is this: every now and then, late at night, my phone buzzes once. Just once. No message. No number. No alert. Just a vibration. Like something tapping from the other side. Checking that I'm still here. Still reachable. Still going the wrong way. And every time, I think about turning the GPS back on, just to see if it reroutes me again. Just to see what waits for me this time. I haven't done it yet, but I feel it coming. Because whatever found us that night, it wants me back. And sooner or later, I think I'm going to follow. The night the GPS first spoke in a voice I didn't recognize, the Tennessee hills looked like they'd been dipped in ink. Wet branches clawed at the sky, streetlights flickered in the cold rain, and the highway shimmered like a black mirror stretching endlessly ahead of us. Ava drove with both hands tight on the wheel, not because she was nervous, but because she always drove like she had something to prove. I sat passenger, picking at a loose thread on my jeans, pretending I wasn't still grieving a breakup I insisted I was totally, absolutely fine about. We had planned this girl's trip to Nashville as a distraction, a reset, something to cleanse the palate of my life. Instead, the air in the car felt heavier than the storm outside. The silence between us stretched, each mile making it tighter. Then, my GPS crackled. Not the cheerful robotic voice I'd used for years, not the default settings. This one sounded human, or trying to be. "Turn right, Olivia." I flinched so hard Ava noticed. "You good?" she asked, brows lifting. "Yeah, just tired." But my throat felt dry. The screen glowed softly, a pale blue smear against the dark interior of the car. The route abruptly redrew itself, curling off I-24 and onto a narrow, unnamed road that wasn't even on the map before. "Did you change something?" Ava asked. "No," I said. "I didn't touch it." She slowed, squinting through the rain. "Maybe it's a detour. Maybe." But even I didn't believe that. The road looked like a service path, not paved so much as remembering it used to be paved. Trees pressed in from both sides. The darkness beyond the headlights was thick, swallowing space like fog made of ink. The GPS spoke again. "Turn right here." This time, Ava's shoulders went tense. "Okay, weird. That wasn't your usual voice, right?" "No," I whispered. "It wasn't." We turned, anyway. The air shifted the moment the tires left the highway, colder, heavier. Leaves skittered across the windshield, dragged by a wind that didn't sound like regular wind. It moaned, long and low, as if the forest exhaled against the glass. "What the hell is this? Are we on a campground road?" Ava muttered. I checked the screen. The route had redrawn deeper into the woods, the blue line snaking like a vein. "We should go back," I said. Ava tried, but the road was too narrow to turn. "Just a minute forward. There's going to be a spot to flip around." The dirt transitioned into something rougher. Gravel cracked beneath the tires. Branches scraped the roof, each drag sounding like nails, tracing letters we couldn't read. That's when the train appeared. A derelict freight line stretched across the path, hundreds of feet long, sagging into the earth as if it had died there, alone and forgotten. No engine. No crew. Boxcars rusted in place like a spine of metal bones. It wasn't blocking the road by accident. It was the road now. Ava inhaled sharply. "Nope, no way, we're backing up." But before she shifted into reverse, my phone buzzed. Then hers. A cold pulse shot through my spine as both screens lit the car's interior with a harsh white glow. Unknown number. "Stop the car." Another. "We're behind you." A third message. A photo, taken from somewhere above us. The image showed our car exactly where we were, parked in front of the abandoned train. But no one was behind us, not in the mirrors, not in the windows, just darkness. Then the tree line moved. Shadows peeled themselves away from the trunks, slow, deliberate, too smooth to be casual hikers, too confident to be lost campers. They advanced with the certainty of people who had rehearsed this moment. Ava whispered, "Oh my God, Olivia. What do we do?" "Floor it." She did. The car lurched as she swerved into the shallow ditch beside the train tracks. Metal screamed. The chassis buckled. Branches snapped off the hood like bones breaking. The silhouettes lunged. Hands slapped the rear window, pale, fast, frantic. Fingers curled like claws against the glass. One figure swung a crowbar, denting the trunk with a hollow metallic thud that vibrated through my teeth. "Go," I shrieked. "I am," Ava cried, panicking. The wheels caught traction. The car shot forward, fishtailing violently as we tore through brush and back onto the gravel path. The shadows chased running, not stumbling. their movements horrifyingly synchronized. When we finally made it back to the paved road, one silhouette stopped at the tree line, watching us flee. Not running, not shouting, just standing still, as if it knew we'd look back. We didn't stop driving until the glow of Nashville bled across the horizon like sunrise. At dawn, we checked into a cheap motel. The clerk didn't look up. He didn't see two girls shaking hard enough that our teeth clicked together. He didn't hear the sound of hands slamming against our car echoing in our ears. He didn't smell the rust and dirt and fear clinging to our clothes. All, Ava said, in a hoarse whisper, was, "We're not telling anyone. They'll think we're insane." Maybe she was right. But later that afternoon, when my phone buzzed again, screen black, never turned on since the woods, my blood turned ice. "Welcome back, Olivia." A pause. Another line. "We missed you." The GPS app wasn't open. The phone wasn't even unlocked. And the worst part? I never gave it my name. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the stiff motel bed, staring at the textured ceiling, listening to the hum of the air conditioner. Every time the vent clicked, I jolted. My brain kept replaying the image of the pale hands hitting the rear window, the crowbar bouncing off the trunk, the shadows moving with that unnatural unity. Ava slept fitfully, tossing, muttering. Around 3 a.m., she whispered my name in her sleep. "Olivia, don't." And I couldn't tell if she was dreaming about the woods or warning me. By morning, exhaustion wrapped itself around my nerves like cold rope. We left Nashville hours earlier than planned. Ava insisted she could drive. I didn't argue. My hands still trembled too hard to hold the wheel. Halfway back toward Chattanooga, she asked, "Can I use your charger? Mine's dead." Sure. I reached into my bag. My phone was powered off, completely off, but as soon as my fingers touched it, the screen lit up. "New route available. Would you like to continue?" I dropped it, like it burned me. Ava cursed. "What now?" The voice spoke again. Not through the speaker. Through the body of the phone itself. Like sound. Vibrating from inside the glass. "Turn left in 1 mile." Ava paled. Nope. Shut it off." "It is off," I whispered. "It's been off." I held the power button. The screen flickered, refusing to die. I tossed the phone into the back seat like distance could protect us. For the next half hour, neither of us spoke. The tension in the car felt brittle enough to snap. Rain hammered the windshield. The wipers dragged in long, tired arcs. Then Ava said quietly, "Liv, what if the voice wasn't an app?" I swallowed. Hard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, phones don't know our names unless we give it to them, and they don't talk when they're off, and they definitely don't take pictures from 10 feet above us." "That wasn't 10 feet, I whispered. "It was higher, like a ridge, or a tree, or a drone, maybe." But even a drone felt too simple, too explainable. Ava changed lanes. "What if someone cloned your GPS account? Or it wasn't my GPS?" "What?" It was a new voice, a new route, a new everything. It didn't feel like my phone. It felt like someone else controlling it. Someone who already knew where we were going. "You think we were targeted?" The question hung in the air like a stain. I didn't answer. Because I didn't have one. We made it back to my apartment just before noon. Ava parked but didn't move. She gripped the wheel like she wasn't convinced letting go was safe. "Are you staying here?" she asked. "I don't know. Want me to stay?" "Yes." But Ava didn't stay. Not for long. She lasted 30 minutes in my living room before she went silent, staring at her hands. "What's wrong?" I asked. "My phone," she whispered. She flipped it around. On her lock screen, a picture of the motel parking lot from that morning. Only, we weren't in it. But the same car we had seen in the woods, dark, old, dented, sat parked crooked across 2 spaces, as if waiting. Ava shook her head. No, this is impossible." I grabbed her wrist. "We need to go to the police." "And tell them what? That a GPS stalked us? That shadows chased us?" That our phones are haunted? It's not haunting. Then what is it? I didn't know, but I knew enough not to tell a cop. A voice in my phone is following us. Ava left soon after, claiming she needed to shower and sleep. She promised to text when she got home. She never did. I waited hours, called twice, messaged 6 times. Nothing. By midnight, panic scraped at the inside of my ribs. I paced my living room, telling myself she was just exhausted, that she'd passed out, that she'd call first thing in the morning. At 12:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Not a message. A chime. The same soft chime my GPS used when it rerouted. The screen glowed from where it lay on the coffee table. A single line. Route updated. Another. Follow. Then a map appeared. No roads, no names, just a single glowing path through a darkened area of Tennessee's hills. My breath stilled when I saw the endpoint labeled at the top. Ava. The route pulsed like a heartbeat. I should have thrown the phone, smashed it, left the apartment, anything. But what I did next. I touched the screen. The voice soft, patient, almost affectionate filled the room. Turn right in 20 feet, Olivia. We'll take you to her. I stood frozen, heart jackhammering. The phone vibrated again. We know you want to help her. Let us guide you. The blue route flickered and briefly changed. Not to a road. To an image. A screenshot. Ava's car. Driver's door open. Interior light, glowing. Empty. I slapped a hand over my mouth to stop the noise rising in my throat. The GPS chimed again, gentle, coaxing. Let's begin, Olivia. It's time to go back. The screen went black. The apartment lights flickered. Somewhere, in the darkness of my hallway, the same chime echoed a digital sound with no source. And I realized, with a nauseating certainty, it wasn't rerouting me. It was calling me, guiding me, claiming me, as if my coordinates, my routines, my life, my identity, were now just saved data in something far smarter, far older, far more patient than any human stalker. And somewhere in that same wet Tennessee forest where the train rusts into the earth, where shadows move like they've practiced for years, something waits for me to take one wrong step, or maybe the right one. Because the last thing the GPS whispered just before every light in my apartment shut off was the soft, eager promise of something that already knew me too well. Welcome home.